What is up, my dudes? I love doing these 7 albums that got me into blank videos, so I thought I would just keep making them because it's so much fun. But anyway, we're going to be doing traditional heavy metal, speed metal. I'm just overall picking albums that I consider to be a little bit more fundamental heavy metal. These are the bands that all other genres are built off of. And although they're not nearly as grimy or heavy, as gritty or whatever, I still consider them mainstays. And without them, I wouldn't appreciate the genre. I wouldn't appreciate the genre nearly as much as I do. So yeah, we're gonna kick off. I should preface this by saying that a lot of these I only heard the songs first, and it took me a long time. But once I eventually got the albums, they still blew me away. So we're gonna start off with Ozzy Osbourne, Diary of a Madman. Heard Ozzy probably first. It's probably the first band, group, guy that I heard. Then I was like, who is this guy? This is awesome. And it was Diary of a Madman off of this album that really just blew my mind. I still think it's the best Ozzy Osbourne song, and I think this is the best Ozzy Osbourne album. But yeah, once I eventually did get the CD many years later after I was a youngin', I think SATO is amazing, Believer is amazing, and then of course you got the classics, Over the Mountain and Flying High Again. But overall, excellent album, excellent start, and I'm really glad that I heard this when I did. Moving on, once again, like I said, I heard bits and pieces, and for this I heard Judas Priest on the Brutal Legend soundtrack, like you will see many of these bands are, and it was it was Leather Rebel off of the Brutal Legend soundtrack that really just struck me. And then once the finale has Painkiller, it really just whoa. And once I kind of did some research and found out that both of those songs were on the Painkiller album, I had no choice but to check it out. So that's why Painkiller is on this list instead of Screaming for Vengeance or Hellbent for Leather or whatever. And this album, I think, is absolutely amazing. Probably the best Judas Priest album. And every single track on here is fucking killer. I mean, even the ones I'm not really that into, like Hell Patrol, are still absolutely amazing. But the title track, oh my god. Metal Meltdown, I also think is really underrated. But excellent, excellent album. Judas Priest's best. And I'm really glad I heard it, first. Moving on from there, once again, kind of got into these guys a little late with Motorhead. I did hear thrash metal first with Metallica and Anthrax and whatnot, but they kept referencing Motorhead, so I obviously had to go back and listen to them. And on top of that, their song In the Black off of Inferno was in the Brutal Legend soundtrack, and I adored it. And then We Are the Road Crew is on Ace of Spades, but everybody was talking about Ace of Spades, and I was like, okay, well, I have to get it. And I personally think this is the best Motorhead album, which is really hard for me to say because I think every single album is amazing. Literally all of them. So it was really hard for me to kind of just pick one, if you will. But I think the tracks on here, like Love Me Like a Reptile, We Are the Road Crew, and especially The Chase is Better Than the Catch, really just stuck out to me more as a whole as an album. And that's why I have to put this on the list. So Motorhead, number 3 there, and boy howdy, what an amazing band. Alright, moving on from there, Black Sabbath, once again, kind of got into these guys a little late, but going with kind of the Ozzy thing, when you find out that Ozzy's singing Black Sabbath in a solo band, you're like, what? So obviously I had to pick this one, and I think the first album, the first Black Sabbath and the first heavy metal album here, is just, I can't even describe how amazing it is. But when it comes to Black Sabbath, I was really into Symptom of the Universe, and it took me a while, but I eventually kind of got around to listening to the whole discography, and I still think that this first one might be my favorite. And it's really hard to compete with a lot of these songs, and especially I think the Wizard, NIB, the title track, and the last track are just absolutely amazing. A little bit bluesier, but really love this album. Black Sabbath, the debut. Moving on from there, we've got Saxon, Wheels of Steel. Once again, Brutal Legend soundtrack, heard Wheels of Steel on it, and I liked it, but once I saw Saxon open up for Judas Priest, my mind was fucking blown, and I immediately bought this CD after seeing them. And although it took me a while and I was aware of Saxon, it was seeing the live performance that really opened the door for me. And yeah, I mean, it was kind of hard to pick like a standout Saxon record, but I went with this one because I already knew Wheels of Steel. But I mean, Motorcycle Man, 747 and Susie Hold On. I mean, these are all classic Saxon songs. So anyway, Saxon, Wheels of Steel. All right, this is first wave of black metal, but still has that traditional heavy metal sound, and that is Merciful Fate's Melissa. I got into King Diamond first before I heard this, but Evil was on the Guitar Hero Metallica soundtrack, and I was like, what is this? I had already heard Abigail by King Diamond, but I didn't know about Merciful Fate, and so I had to pick it up and listen to it, and I was instantly just blown away. And for a while, I preferred Merciful Fate more than King Diamond, but I think nowadays they probably reversed. But anyway, still love this album, Evil, Curse of the Pharaohs, Into the Coven. I mean, this is bam, 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 one after another, classic tracks there. But yeah, overall, Merciful Fate really just opened the door for me, and I really began to appreciate King Diamond's solo work more, especially after listening to this. So moving on from there, the final one we've got is Black Sabbath's Heaven and Hell. I only listened to the Ozzy stuff for a while. I just wanted to familiarize myself with that stuff before I moved on to other Black Sabbath material. And once I got to the Dio years, I was like, holy shit, this is fucking awesome. This is probably the best Black Sabbath album. I don't know. That's kind of hard. Between this one and the first one, it's hard for me. But anyway, Neon Nights, Children of the Sea, the title track, Lonely Is the World. I mean, these are all tracks that are just absolutely classic to me. But I think once I heard this on top of all the other discographies of all these other bands, it really kind of put things into perspective for me, because before I only really kind of did the thrash stuff for a while, and then I did death metal for a while. But once I heard these, I began to appreciate the genre of metal as a whole, and I really began to love all different types of subgenres within it. So anyway, those are my 7 picks for classic heavy metal albums that really got me into that genre. So please tell me if I missed a band. Please tell me, what your picks were, what got you into heavy metal. But for me, these are the traditional guys. These are the guys that really did it for me. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Stay heavy, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.